bonjour à tous. Merci d'être là cet après-midi. I don't know, it's going to be in English, yeah. Right? Okay. So thanks for joining us this afternoon. At Sœurs Jumelles, it's really important to us to focus on women of the music and image industry. So we are really happy to introduce you today this wonderful woman, music supervisor from France and other countries in the world, thanks to the CNM who has invited a few of these women. I'll let you, Sasha, introduce and moderate the panel. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. So this panel will be in English, but je peux traduire si vous avez besoin. So we can speak Franglish as well, as you like. Tell me. We are going to start by doing some quick presentations before we get into the vif du sujet. So I am Sasha White. I'm the head of music at Media One. We're an audiovisual group, and so I'm doing the sort of legal, administrative, and less fun part of figuring out music for a large group. But I am also a music supervisor for many of our productions. And I will let the other women around the table introduce themselves.
Start this way? Yeah. Hello, my name is Jennifer Noya. I am originally from Venezuela, but I am based in the UK, and that's where I work as a freelance music supervisor. I've been around for a long time. I started in broadcasting, but now I'm doing freelance work for mostly television and film. Recently, The Reluctant Traveler with Eugene Levy for Apple TV is one of my series. And yeah, it's really nice to be here and talk about our experiences with this amazing panel. So thank you for showing up.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Hi, I'm Rebecca. My company is My Melody, and I've been a music supervisor for 16 years in France. And it's my third year here, so I'm very happy to be here again, and thanks for showing up. You're quite a few of you. Thanks.
Hello all. I come from the farthest, I think. I'm Bénédicte. I work at Ubisoft, but Ubisoft in Montreal. I've been a music supervisor for video games for something like 20 years. And I was here 2 years ago. And tomorrow I'm doing a presentation, and don't miss it. And here.
Oh, yeah. Hi, my name is Lena Obera. I'm based in Berlin, and I'm a German music supervisor, but I am working mostly on productions where there are at least 2 countries involved. So I am able to clear rights out of several European countries. So I think this is something what makes me different or special. I don't know.
The first thing that I want to do before we start is figure out who are we speaking to. If you are a composer, raise your hand. If you are a rights holder, raise your hand. If you are on the production side, raise your hand. If you're a music supervisor? Ah, okay, a very good mix. Okay, so we can say lots of things to everyone. Yeah. Good. Okay, so the first thing that most of you guys will know what a music supervisor is, but just to make sure that we're all on the same page, and especially because it's slightly different for all of you, all of us, and in our respective countries, we're just going to do a quick answer as to what is a music supervisor.
Well, I think, the umbrella of it all is that we come in and work with the productions and oversee anything that has to do with music. And like you said, every country and every supervisor will have a different approach on how they work. Some of them come from the creative side, some of them come from the legal side, some of them just work with composers, but we are there to facilitate the process of syncing the music into the picture and assuring that both creatively, legally, and financially, it kind of ticks all the boxes for our clients, with are the production companies. So yeah, first, a music supervisor, in my view, is one that oversees the entire kind of music world within an audiovisual production. I don't know if you want
Gosh, that's really good. I know it's exactly.
All right,
I've got nothing
Wikipedia.
else to say. Maybe ticking all the boxes is very important, obviously, and there's also a big artistic implication where you suggest composers and you suggest tracks to suit the image. But yeah. Voilà.
I have my own. So I think it's different for the video game industry. It's different in Ubisoft, I know, because there was no service, there was no music supervisor, and then I was doing sound editing, but I had like a musical background, and I went to see all the productions, and I said, if there was a music service, what would you like? Made a list, and went to my boss and said, people want this, and I think I can do it. It took us, like me and HR, took us a few years to figure out, hey, that's music supervision. So, so I like your definition. We're 4 people now at Ubisoft, 4 music supervisors. We also do, we edit loops and we edit music to picture to trailers and stuff. So maybe, I sometimes mix. Sometimes. So a bit more involved into the nitty-gritty, yes. So that's what we do.
I think I was asked, I am asked quite often, do you think that artificial intelligence will replace you? And I think, I don't think so, because, for example, when I work with a director very closely, and I know this director, and he tells me, listen, I need a guilty pleasure song in this. I know exactly what he means. Because you cannot ask artificial intelligence guilty pleasure, because again, we have different guilty pleasure levels. So, but when I know him or her personally, and I know the background and the feeling and the taste, I know exactly what is meant. So that's why I always think I will be not replaceable in this area.
Is that a complete answer for everyone? Great. So, quick little side note, and I'm going to do it in French. Il y a le sujet de est-ce qu'on dit, est-ce que c'est un superviseur musical ou une superviseuse musicale? Donc, petit sondage, déjà, pour les femmes superviseureuses musicales, comment vous le dites? Est-ce que vous dites superviseuse ou vous dites superviseur? Rebecca?
Je fais la supervision.
Moi, je dis superviseur.
Superviseur. Ouais. Donc, si on dit superviseur, on veut dire superviseur et superviseuse et tout ce qui est entre. On est d'accord?
Mais il y a une dame là, qui, avec votre casquette rose, vous avez fait oui.
Je dis superviseuse.
Ouais, voilà.
Moi, perso, j'ai tendance à dire superviseur pour attraper tout. Okay.
Et ça a marché? T'as tout attrapé ou pas?
Je sais pas. Okay, on va rentrer. Sorry, schizophrenic. We are going to start by talking a little bit about your personal career paths, because we know that music supervision is not something that, well, maybe now you can study at school, but I think when we all started doing music supervision, that was not a thing. So tell us about your careers, how you got to being what we are calling now, a music supervisor.
Go ahead. Yeah, okay. I'm the first. By chance. I think you're probably going to find that anybody that has been around for over 20 years, 15 years, is sort of a little bit of we stumble into this world. I come from South America. I come from Venezuela. In music rights there, it's way behind. So music supervision was not necessarily even on my radar. And I went to London because the music, I stayed there, loved it there, and found a job through an agency. And they said, you want to be a music assistant? Sure, I can do that. My background is working with bands and live events. I can be a music assistant on a TV channel. What's there to do? oh my gosh, the entire world changed. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I had to learn really quickly. So that sort of started my journey into music clearances, because when you come from the broadcasting and the television background, especially in the UK, and we can go a little bit about territories later on, they work in a very different way. You know, there are blanket agreements. There's very little creative from the music department. It's all about rights. It's all about what is clearable, what is not clearable, what can constitute, offensive use of a music piece. So, ooh, don't use it, take it out. Music cue sheets is very heavily admin. And I did that for over close to 15 odd years. And I went through a lot of type of programming, from daytime, live television, from 4 o'clock in the morning until 10 in the evening, to then go and do factual shows and game shows and documentaries and music specials and live music specials being recorded. So I had a very good education. I was very lucky with that job. And they allowed me to grow into it. But you reach a point that, okay, the world is changing out there. All the Netflix and the Apples and the Amazons and all the streamers starts coming in. And everybody's talking about music and using music and audiovisual in a very different way to our little music departments in broadcasters. And I got curious. So I said, oh, here I go. I'm just going to go quit my job, and went on and sort of thought, what am I going to do now with the skills? And I went on to do freelance music supervision. The Reluctant Traveler team got me on board from before it had a title, and I've been with them for 4 years. And then other projects and working with other music supervisors. So that has sort of been my journey. So completely by chance and just learning on the job.
I started in live music, and in the concert hall where I was working, it was also a movie during the day. So actually, my first job was movie and music in the evening. So I think maybe it was my destiny, I don't know. But then I went on to publishing, and then independent label, and then I worked for a director, a female director, who said, why don't you try and do music and film together? And I said, oh yeah, can I work on your film? She said, yeah, please do. Actually, she didn't. I said, oh, I'm not sure I can do it. And she said, well, do it, and you'll fake it till you make it. So that's how we started 16 years ago, and since we've done, I don't know, 250 films or something. Many. Voilà.
Nice. I studied music, actually. I have a bachelor's degree in jazz singing.
Performance after that.
Yes, jazz performance, thank you. And I have a master's degree in music engineering. But then after graduating, I wanted a job, so I found a job as a sound designer, because I had a mentor. So I got a job at Ubisoft as a sound designer to do monsters and trucks and scientific widgets and stuff. And then I found myself lonely because, you do sounds, you get a list of sounds you get to produce for the end of the day. And I was like, no, I want to, work with people and go to meetings and suggest stuff and do a teamwork. And that's why, I'm coming back to my earlier story. I was looking for something else to do. And video games are, pretty supple as it gets, and it worked. But the unfunny thing maybe is I don't do clearance because, atypical. Because it was already being done by people who are clearing, like guns or cars, like other than music. So they learned to do the music clearance, and then yes, we learned to do the other stuff. Yeah.
My background, it's actually, when I think about it, I think I was born to do this job, because I remember the first, as a child, there was this movie, Labyrinth, David Bowie, and I was very young, and I went to see the cinema, and I thought, like, this music's amazing. And then I started to spend my money on soundtracks. so I actually think that somehow I knew that I wanted to do this job, and I studied music, science, and sound engineering. And the first time that I actually worked on a movie was funny, because my partner by that time, he's a composer, musician, and his best friend is a very known and great German director, and he did his first movie in 2013. And he asked my partner by that time to do the score, but at the same time, he asked me to replace the music which my boyfriend would support. And finally, in the credits, it's me. So I replaced him very well. So that was my first movie. That's how I ended up doing this job. And we did all the further movies he did. We are still working together. It's kind of bonding relationship, you know.
I'm also going to intervene just once, but because I think it's interesting that we all have such kind of different backgrounds, some similarities, but I am not classically musically trained or in engineering or anything. I was a ballet dancer. that was my first career. So we all have something musical, but different journeys that have brought us to doing a very similar thing, which is quite interesting. I think it's good for anyone who's interested in the industry or says, oh, I want to be a music supervisor. You don't have to have a specific training, really, except for a good ear, I think, and a sense of organization. Yeah. Probably the post.
And empathy.
Just a bit on the being a female or a gender minority in our journeys in music supervision today, but also in your journeys, because I think we've had a sort of preparation talk and realized that actually the majority, I mean, we've got a very good mix between men and women generally as music supervisors, which we're very lucky because that isn't the case in other sound careers. So could you just talk a little bit about what it's like, what it's been like in your careers as a woman, as well in your respective countries?
Yeah, in music supervision, it's really 50-50, and we're a company where there are 8 of us and there are 7 women, so we're actually the other way around. In my career, I've never, what am I looking for? Apart from the music label where I worked, where it was men in the closed office and only girls on the open floors. And then we all started having babies, so we were all replaced by men afterwards. I've never really suffered of that at all, so that's it. I've got nothing to say about that.
Which is also great.
It is very lucky.
I think when it comes to being a female in this job, again, we are many women in this job, and there are no big differences, and there are no disadvantages or advantages so far. But I have to admit that when I had to deal with, for example, Egypt, Libya, and the countries where women are probably seen differently than in our countries, I was treated not well, or I was treated with not... I actually called my French friends, who has nothing to do with music supervision, to make the phone calls, which I was supposed to do. Because you notice, like, hey, it's, different. But again, it has nothing to do with music supervision per se. It's like how we as women are in our jobs and seen in different countries. But in my normal life, I would say, like, there's nothing where I could say it's a disadvantage or advantage.
Well, in the video game industries, there are far more men in the workforce. But I think I was probably like at the right time, at the right place, because, men were like, oh, a lady. And that was just like, fresh. Yeah. And they, so I was rather welcomed. Sure, there were little stories. There's always little stories where people don't take you seriously, but it's just, anecdotes. Like, for the rest of it, I've been pretty lucky too.
Yeah, it's such an interesting conversation, isn't it? Because we were talking about it. It's very equal in television in the UK. When you look not only at music, the from the music supervision, by the way. I'm not talking about the music industry. That's a completely different numbers and statistics in there. And we know that composers,
Whole other panel on that.
we're talking about just supervisors or people working on that side of it. All my mentors have been women. All my bosses have been women. Most of my colleagues are women. And the production people I work with, most of them are women, up to a point. And then when you reach a level of seniority, creativity from the production audiovisual side of things, you start seeing it's more male-dominated. And I think I don't have anecdotes where just because I was a woman, anything kind of, I was put at disadvantage. I don't know if I was in terms of pay, because in the UK people don't talk about money. So it could be that those are where the inequalities could be. Maybe somebody at my same level that is a male counterpart is way better at negotiating their field. They get paid more because they're seen. But there's nothing, and there's no studies about it anyway, because it's a very kind of new career as well as we are these days. But you see it working as a woman in music supervision. You work into an edit, and the editors will be the guys, and you go into the studio to the recording of the score, and you probably are the only woman in the room, and you notice that probably nobody else notices it, and nobody treats you differently unless they start talking to each other and you feel you're not part of the club. But that's a different thing. That's it might not even be personal. So there are subtle things that you see where the industry changes from being equal, as we see it, from supervisor jobs to being unequal on the other parts of the industry. So yeah, but personally I've been very lucky as well.
And we sort of touched on it when we were discussing earlier, but why? Why is that? Why maybe is there equality where there isn't elsewhere? In the industry?
Well, we did. It was very interesting. We did. We sort of you start saying, well, let's trace back where it all starts, right? Like the music supervisors from really old films and things like that were composers, like the real ones that were sort of going in there and scoring. They were sort of sitting. So when it all started, and you see it in theatre, the music supervisors that work in musicals in the theatre, they're mostly, and the MDs are mostly male. It could be that from our perspective, from the audiovisual world, and I don't know, I'm putting it out there, there is no data, this is not a statistic studies because it hasn't been done. Could it be that this job it is very spreadsheet heavy, it's all about clearances, it's all about admin. Could it be that because it was left to the women in the rooms outside and not the guys in the office that were doing the more creative? But then it sort of evolved. And now we are there because we're doing it freelance because we became moms. So we had to find a way to, incorporate our careers into the world that we have limitations because you become a parent or something. So maybe that's the way I can kind of think why, from our perspective, is that. I don't know.
I think that's, yeah. What do you think?
Well, we also spoke about it briefly on our pre-call. There are also many male music supervisors out in the world and very famous who have several females sitting in the background. And so I think like, okay, the name is male, but when it comes to the spreadsheet job, it's done by many women. But I'm not good with spreadsheet, by the way.
You're not? I'm very good with spreadsheets. Yeah, I love a spreadsheet. Yeah. See, that's why we get the job, because we love a spreadsheet. That's what it is all about. But I think there's so much potential to explore all of this, because it's about understanding the job we do and where it comes from. And I'm a big geek when it comes to that understanding. Okay, why are we doing what we're doing, and what are the roots? Who are the origins? Where it all came from. So it's a fascinating part, and it's just a very new profession as it is. So we will get there. We'll get to know, I think, a little bit more about it.
Have you seen anything change during your careers from the beginning to the end of what it means to be a music supervisor, the job that you're doing, or your place as a woman doing that, if that's even relevant in the discussion? But what have you seen change since, because you all have quite long careers?
Yes. Well, I don't know if that's what you meant, but so I look for composers a lot, all the time. And there were 3 lady composers when I started, seriously, like, you know, and then they sort of bloomed. Like, you know, it felt like there were none, and then suddenly there were 15. You know,
Female composers in the
Yeah.
room, raise your hand.
Bravo.
That's not very many. Yeah?
No, but yeah.
But it's
still,
changing.
Yeah, it is changing. That's changing. And then, I don't know, we did say like, oh, technically, you know, like the stigma is that women are not good with like technical stuff, but that's like old like 80s mentality.
I think it depends on the country.
You think? I think, I mean, okay, but there's so many like female artists, like, you know, they just like, they're DJing, they're playing with their synthesizers on stage, and I mean, it feels like this is like old news to me.
In France, for instance, I don't think there are any female mixers. I think. I've never met one, anyway. And there are sound editors, music editors, I mean, quite a few girls. Qui? Non, mais elle n'est pas mixeuse. Mixeur de film, je veux dire, mixeur. Ah, elle mixe
Good,
aussi.
we have one.
OK, so we have one. Quand j'ai travaillé avec elle, elle mixait pas encore, mais donc c'est super, tant mieux qu'elle mixe maintenant. So from what I've seen, it's changed. There are more women in the studios as well, but it's still, when you get into a studio, as you were saying, I'm very often the only female there, still. But it will change. And composers, I agree. We had, I think, in maybe the first women composer we hired was maybe 4 years ago.
Exactly. I think that the changed also. Hildur Guðnadóttir made a big change because she won the Oscar for Joker, and you know, and then suddenly female composers were up. But I remember again, we are still very rare in the studio. The whole orchestra is mostly male-dominated, and sound engineers are male-dominated. But again, I'm happy that the focus on female composers became such a big issue that, and again, I have to say, Hildur, thank you for that, because she kind of made this statement, I can do it. And I think that I started also, when I look for composers, and I'm sorry to say that, but I actually started also to focus on female and search especially for female composers when in my search. So that changed me. Also, the idea of supporting more female also changed my way of searching for music.
Interesting point. I was like, do I do this too? Not really. However, we do pitches, like submissions, and I make it a point to like say there's like 5 or 6 people who are submitting music to have one lady. Yeah. Like, find one. Yeah.
Does that get noticed?
No, like no, but it's weird because so that's something we know, but majority of people, at least the people I work with, they don't realize. They're like, they think there's as many ladies as men. Like, yeah.
I think it's pretty much the same. I don't have a lot has changed, and I was just thinking about faxes and how we used to rip MP3s and vinyl to source music for productions, but that's not the conversation we're having today. So a lot has changed in 20 years, but it's the female composer side, and sort of the one that probably is the one that I've seen change the most and evolve. And now potentially music editors. I think people are working more in television with music editors, and there are a few up-and-coming women next to is more male than female because they're coming from the composer editing background. But a lot of composer women are understanding, oh, I could do music editing alongside the composing, and using that, at least in the UK, as a way in to then potentially score projects and things like that. So
you sort of touched on it quickly, Lena, but is there anything that you think that, and again, this might not have an answer, is there anything that you think being a woman gives you an edge or makes you think differently about how you do your job?
I'm not.
I think sometimes empathy again.
Yeah.
And I have actually one story which is kind of interesting. One of my first movies, I got a phone call from a music supervisor, male music supervisor. And it was the time where I still working for a publishing company, and the music I hired the composers for doing the score. They were unpublished, so I published them into this publishing company. So I was sitting in the publishing office on my little desk, and and then the phone called, and I picked it up, and there was this guy saying his name, and said like, "Listen, I'm doing this interview about music for this movie, and I would like to have the contacts to these guys." And I was like, "Oh, wow, this is nice. And how do you end up doing this?" And he's like, "I was the music supervisor on this movie." I was like, "No, you were not." I was like, "Yes, I was." I was like, "No, you were not." I was like, "How do you know?" I was like, "I was the music supervisor." And I thought like, wow, I think sometimes female would not dare to go so far. I think that you are more humble or more, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think I would never put feathers on me, which do not belong to me.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
German.
Is that a German expression? Yeah.
Yeah, the feathers.
Yeah,
it
like
is.
standing out like a red dog.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah. Thank you. It's like we put foreign feathers on us. So I think maybe we are more humble, and also we are, negotiation maybe is different with us, because we, again, I don't want to be too specific, but I think that male colleagues are more rough and tough.
I'm rough.
You are, yeah, I bet you are. Yeah.
I'm a bit scared now. Okay. I am not. But it's, I agree. That's a good story. That's a wild story about that guy doing that. Sorry. But
He's
surprise,
still
it's
working in this
amazing,
music
isn't it?
business.
Name the names.
No.
You can Google it.
I think when I was reading for this information, because I like numbers, and I was hoping to find any numbers when we were sitting down to talk about this, I read an article about this one of those that they do on Women's Day or Week or whatever they do, and all the magazines suddenly have all the women that you never see anywhere kind of interview. And they had somebody, I can't remember, but she was not from the UK, talking about how she's young, she's up and coming, and she benefited from the, when people are looking for diversity in their kind of payroll, and they wanted to hire somebody from a minority and a woman. And she said, I benefited from that. They were searching for that specifically, and I got the job. But that is what led me to where I am now. So I think those little quotas that we have in place, and they are in the UK, and I'm assuming a lot of countries will have them. Some people don't like them. Some people don't think they are efficient, but they do make a difference, especially when you're trying to break into places that nobody else has done it before. Because I think like with the women composers, up until somebody shines in a big way, nobody else wants to take the risk. And our industry has becoming very much risk adverse, and you can see it what's happening in films and everything. So it happens to every level of production, and people are going to go, oh no, that show used that composer that happened to be this guy, so I'm going to go with that because I know he can do it, and they don't want to take risks. So that's the only kind of point that I can bring to that.
It's actually funny because I just remembered, literally 4 weeks ago, I recommended a female composer, and I sent a profile of her to the director, male director, and I put the note, she's a working horse. And I would never do this with a male composer. I would never use this to profile.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. It's just like when you spoke, I was like, wow, that's amazing that I did it for her, and I would never do this for a male composer. I would never say like, he's a working horse. It's kind of scary.
But that's very much ingrained in the industries that we've grown up in, so it becomes habit.
Yeah. You have to overdo it. You have to overshine to be able to get the job. I think that's what we all have ingrained.
Yeah, and at least she's in the list.
Yeah.
So it's the beginning.
She will do the job, actually.
Good.
She is a really working horse.
In terms of the particularities of our countries, so we've talked a lot about our space as women in the industry. I'd love for us to talk a little bit more about what it's like working as music supervisors in each of your countries, a little bit about your processes, how you work, what might differ from one country to the next.
Yeah, well, I'm working a lot on German production, but also like co-productions where basically you have at least 2 or 3 countries involved. I think Germany, which still kind of is sad, like when I go to a movie to see the work I've done, I have to sit for like half an hour into the credits. Like driver number 126 and blah, blah, blah. And then, music supervision, Lena Obera, woohoo! So I think that in Germany, often this job is seen as not particularly necessary. And I also have this little kind of label on my profile that I am the fixer. So basically, many people call me when the potatoes are burning.
That's a good German expression as well.
It's a German expression again, right? So I have to put out the potatoes of the fire, and you go through the emails and everything what have been done before, and you think like, shit, you could do it so much better if you would have hired me at the beginning. And you just think like, damn, learn the next time. But it's really hard. It's really hard to, and that's why again it's interesting because we have this guild of music supervisors, which is very known in the US because they have the Oscars and they have the pre-Oscars party and they have the pre-Oscars drinks and whatever. We don't have that. I mean, in UK you do have it, but I was approached by the guild and said like, do you want to join? And I said like, for what? I mean. Like literally
to win prizes.
I want the prizes, you know. Yeah, but I feel like this job in particular in Germany is not seen as a proper job. It's like you are as someone who can fix stuff. So this is from the just German perspective.
Do you have any idea of how many music supervisors there are in each of your countries?
Around 15.
15 in all of Germany.
Who make living on that, because there are many people who are doing music supervision also, but like I know 15 who are doing this like every day, each day.
That's really surprising to me because
too many?
No, not enough, because you guys are such a music centered country. Yes.
Oh, I have really bad taste.
In Quebec, like I can't really speak about the Music Guild of Supervisors also exist in Canada, but I'm really from Quebec, and there are probably 2.5 people who do this but not because it's not important, but because the budgets are too small. Yeah. On the French Canadian side.
I think we're about maybe 15 as well, I'd say. 15, maybe a bit more. Yeah, 15, 20, which is not enough, which is not a lot compared to the number of movies that are produced every year. There has been a huge, there are many more than there used to be. When I started, I think we started our companies at the same time as 3 other music supervisors in 2009. And before that, there were 2 people doing it, and that's it. And then we, with our first film, the first film we worked on was a big hit, and we sold a lot of records, so we were like, yeah, we're going to do so many films. And so we were thinking everybody was going to call us, nobody did. And so we started going to see production companies, and nobody was using music supervisors then. It was really seldom to find, apart from big production companies who usually had a music supervision
and mostly
inside.
Film.
Yeah. Huh?
Mostly in film.
Yeah.
It was mostly film supervisors.
Yeah. And then little by little now that it's very, very common, and we're the 20 of us, I'd say.
So why do you think, like, because in the US, they appear early in the generic, and they're
The beginning,
stars.
sometimes.
Yeah,
like
the
after
and then,
the
you know,
producer's
they-
music supervisor.
They get the composer, music supervisor.
Yeah.
Why? This was
Because of the guild, probably.
I think there is quite a guilt thing, as you say, that's more female for sure.
I should join.
But
I
it's
really
also
should.
the market thing, I think, that we are not seen as completely necessary. And often when the potatoes are burnt, it's because they wanted to spare the money and not spend it. And then it's more expensive when you come later on. And you should invoice more as well. So because we that's the way we feel about ourselves and they feel about us, then that's why we're not high in the credits. I think it goes together.
But why?
In Germany, you have a law, actually. It is really, like, you have a special law how the credits should be. And music is coming definitely after the drivers.
Well, the rights are at the end. But music supervision isn't rights.
Yeah, but it's in music. It's a music department. So first is art department and makeup department, and music is later on. So basically, I think that you have to change the law first before you can say...
Sounds like a good challenge.
Sounds like it's worth it.
It is.
That's an interesting one, how regulation from each territory can change how the job is in even credited. I'm not sure about the US, but I have a feeling that has to do what your question with the longevity of the job over there. Not every supervisor gets a credit at the top. It depends on the supervisor and how probably negotiate or the direct relationship with the creators. But I wouldn't put that there. All supervisors over there will get a credit at the top. I think it varies as well. I don't know how many female are in the UK, but there will be lots. But I think what happens is
a couple hundred, I'd say.
yeah, I will say that. But you will, especially over the last 5 years, you will see like 5 or 6 names that take over. But that happens in every job, by the way. It's just, the high-profile jobs get more visibility. But there's more people. Not everybody at the moment is working on the industry, so it'll be broken, but there's definitely more.
200.
I would say it's got to
because
be...
there's a lot of advertising as
Yeah.
well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, none of us are sort of in the advertising
No.
world, unless I'm mistaken. But
Yeah.
yeah, so advertising in the UK is quite
Yeah.
popular. So there's lots of supervisors that work
Yeah.
specifically on advertising.
Yeah, and also if you think like the guild might have like 500 members or something, and we're talking about our percentages being a sort of equal representation, you can get educated guess about how many. Doesn't mean that they're all making money. It just means that, they are there, somebody's there thinking, I'm doing this, but yeah.
And then if we look at the US, I don't know if you guys know any specific numbers in the US, but there's a lot of music supervisors, a lot. I'd say hundreds, if not more than that. But if we look at our respective countries as well, that sort of makes sense.
But the industries are different, right? Like the US is a bigger place in territory-wise, but it also has a very kind of bigger entertainment industry. They produce way more. The same with the UK. So budgets also affect that. You have a production coordinator, they're going to do the music clearances because you cannot afford that anymore if your production... We need to go. No, sorry, I'm over talking. No, we're good. If your production, if your industry is a bit smaller, the budgets are going to be different, and that affects everything and what they can spend. And that goes by genre as well, like a film, an indie film, $1 million films, a TV series, and so on.
I just wanted to say something about also advertising, because I used to work in advertising, and I remember I got a phone call in 2017, March or something, and it's like, hi, this is someone with a British accent. We wanted to invite you to Cannes Lion to be in the jury. It's like, I think you have the wrong number. It's like, but you're Lena O'Barra, you're a music supervisor. It's like, yes. Yeah, we want to invite you to Cannes Lion to be in the jury. Yeah, but like, I did maybe 4 advertising by that time, like literally. But I think that they wanted to have also a female quote. I still believe that I was asked only because I'm female. But what was interesting, I went there and I was sitting in a jury which was really mixed female and male. But what is interesting, this jury, it's entertainment for music at Cannes Lion, that was only the second or third year for this category. So basically, never before they had a category for the music, which is like, wow, are you kidding me? I mean, music is such an important thing for advertising, movies, whatever. They only had it for the third year at Cannes Lion.
There's no prize at Cannes.
So
In the Cannes Festival, there's no prize for the music.
now it is, I think, it's the entertainment for some music or whatever. Now it is, I think.
In the Cannes Film Festival?
Yes, now. But again, it's like very fresh, very fresh.
Right, okay.
It's really embarrassing because it's like, you know, music is the thing which makes you watch advertising or whatever, and not being priced for it or not being part of it. It's like,
I think that's quite an interesting point, is the place of importance that music holds also in the productions in each of our territories. Obviously, we're going to fly our little flags of music is important. It's very much what I do at Media One. It's 80 companies, and when I arrived, I asked everyone if they'd ever worked with a music supervisor, and 70% of the companies had never worked with a music supervisor, and we're the biggest European production company group. So that's quite shocking.
There's room.
There's a lot of room. But
everybody.
aside from the room, is what we've sort of touched on is budgets. And why, I mean, in the UK, in Germany, it's happening more now, exporting programs, the games market as well. France, we're still not exporting that much, but it's starting.
I used to love the French series that the BBC got. BBC 4 used to show French series all the time. So carry on, support more. They're
We
amazing.
do a lot of series. But I think some with the platforms now, there are more French productions seen abroad. Yeah.
But I think, and that goes back to your question about territories and how we work in each territory. The platforms are bringing a little bit of a, that's how we work with everybody, I don't care where you are in the world, right? So they come in and say, this is our contracts, this is how we work with composers, this is how the way you need to work as a supervisor with us. And that you really, as a supervisor, need to understand how your territory works. Because if the things are coming out of your territory, if you're engaging your musicians for your score or your composer, there are rules that every country has in place to protect composers, musicians. So you have a streamer that comes in and says, it's a full buyout, everything needs to, we cannot do that here. Or I need a license in perpetuity, and then certain regulations in certain countries don't allow for that. So now as supervisors, yes, we know our territories and we used to kind of, you know, get the potatoes out of the fire, is that, all the time. But now you also need to have this understanding of, oh, well, what's going to happen, you know, can that happen? Can that happen from here to everywhere? So it's a very interesting conversation with the territories now. There is really, we should be all more connected and talking to each other, because we're working more towards a global kind of view on how you manage the music for these things and shows.
Lena, do you have anything to say about that when you work with multiple production companies from different territories? It happens to me as well. How does that change the way that you look at music supervision when you're working with different countries?
I actually had a funny story again. I worked on a movie which was between Ghana and Germany, and we wanted to use one of the most known Ghanaian music, Sarkodie, very famous. And I went to Accra to sign the agreement with him. It was like 2 a.m. in the morning in a very dodgy club, and everybody was completely stoned. And I remember I put out like my money in a little envelope on the table, like, and like, signature here. I was like, yeah, signature. And I was like, okay. And then I took back all the papers and left the money and left. And we used the song literally in the movie. And I think 3 years later, I get an email from a friend of mine who is running the sync department of Buddha music in Germany, Yasmin, very lovely friend of mine. He's like, Lena, you used Sarkodie that was without a license. And I was like, well, it was with license, I have the agreements. And it was funny because it was Accra Music, Reeperbahn, whatever, and Buddha sent out the A&R to sign musicians from there, and they also signed the deal with Sarkodie. But it was like 5 hours later. So I wrote to Yasmin like, listen, my agreement is 2 a.m., you know? You is 10, so come on. It's on me. And she's like, yeah, fair enough. So it's actually funny because, you know, when you work in different countries where it's not regulated the way we think it should be, like very easy, publishing, master rights. Yeah. Most people do not understand. What the fuck is publishing? What is master? They're mixing all together, like all in the same barrel. And when you work in a country where they are not even a collecting society, or the collecting society of Ghana is mafia. Yeah. It is, and I can say it.
So it's in Spain as well, I think.
Yeah, we don't say that. But you know, so you are aware that the rules are completely different, and you have to obey to their rules, and you have to, you know, where. It's really, I love my job again, but sometimes you think like, oh, I'm doing some dodgy stuff here, you know.
And we're not getting paid enough for that.
No, not at all. But I love Sarkodie, by the way. Oh, really great. Please listen to the music, it's amazing.
Another amazing stories, Lena. Love them.
I've got one more. Oh, go ahead.
I could say that, yeah. We play a lot safer than what you're describing. I mean, if I was gonna call our lawyers and say, hey, I want to use, you know, music from a country that doesn't have a collecting society, they would say, forget it. Yeah, too risky. Yeah.
Yeah, but when you work on movies and often documentaries, and we have a different law than US, there is nothing like fair use in Europe, or barely, you know. So you have to approach the people, and you have to find all the 20 copyright holders, and if you don't, you have to cut it out, and you don't do safe and say like fair use or whatever. We don't do this in Germany. We play safe, you know.
Yeah, documentaries is another. That's the way you have to do. You have to become very creative on how you find people to get even a slight approval. Kind of light in there, and then discuss with the lawyers on what represents a risk and what is, you know, best endeavors, fair use, and that sort of stuff. Because every territory is different.
Do not know it often.
Oh, they know. We need more music lawyers, women music lawyers, please.
Yes.
What is a light agreement? You said.
No, I like somebody saying yes on an email. It's like, yeah, I got a yes. Oh. I'm running with that. Yeah. No, you know, it's kind of like any indication that you got, and also you trusting that you got in touch with the right people when you're doing documentaries in territories that have no, like you said, well, I already gave you an email saying it was yes. Why do I need to sign a license? So you have to say, well, it's because I need to. It's not me, it's my distributor. You know, I'm so sorry for the trouble. Yeah. But you have to get that paperwork through.
No, I was going to ask you a question. Do you think that in France things have changed recently with the sort of more cowboy approach versus the more square approach?
No, I don't think it's changed on the production side. You still have to be very cautious, and you have to have all the contracts for everybody. The music you use changes that a bit. So when you go and get music from countries where there's no equivalent to système or whatever, that makes it difficult. Rap music can be challenging also because often the splits aren't completely finished, so it takes some time. Samples. Recently I cleared a track where one of the guys was in prison, so it was all sort of complicated, and it has to...
Did you go there?
Uh-huh.
Did you go there?
Yeah. I won't do it again though, because actually I got scared. Because he suddenly said, oh no, he said okay for 20K for him, not for his share. I was like, no. No, in the email he sent, no, yeah, but no, he doesn't want it. You know, he was changing deal. So I got very nervous because I didn't want to.
I know where you live.
You know, the guy was in prison for murder, so I was like, okay. Anyway, so I won't be doing that again. He got stabbed 14 times since. That was 2 weeks ago. So it's all very exciting. Oh my God. Yeah. So I won't do that again. But for in some sort of music, that's what sometimes you come up with, and especially the splits when they're not defined, and you have to clear without that. It's a nightmare. So yeah, I'd say that's what's changed the nature of the music you clear.
Yeah, it's funny because actually our experiences are quite different. I was asking sort of a pointed question and then you didn't give me the answer that I thought you were going to give me.
Okay, sorry.
No, but that's very good because I think our experiences are different because I am inside of a group where many people have never worked with supervisors, where if you're working because people have chosen to work with you. So they might already have the experience of being a little bit more in the box, whereas I've seen stuff that makes me want to cry when I go home. But it also gives me a job, which is great. But I think that things have changed a lot. We talked earlier about the platforms and the export of programs, specifically in France. I think a lot of stuff was sort of like, oh, we just always got away with it before, so it's not really an issue. You're like, but it is an issue. It is an issue, and it's going to become more of an issue. I'm only speaking with my little hat on. Obviously, we're a very large group that's very recognized, so everyone's going to pick every little thing they can pick. But I feel like the risks were much bigger before, and now it's starting to change because it has to.
Yeah. No, it's true. You still have a few cowboys there doing, oh, I can just
Under
say
3
Thriller.
seconds.
I can just do the Michael Jackson dance saying Thriller, and I'm like, no, you don't do that because it's a reference. So, oh, but what about if we only sing, 2
2 seconds of it, it's free.
2 seconds of it.
Yeah.
That still happens.
Yeah.
It still happens.
Yeah.
All the time. All the time.
About cans and the 1 second ad from Budweiser that got the award. That's what everybody's talking about at the moment. Sorry.
No.
We're just talking about it's a change. It's not going to go somewhere else. So bring me back, please.
We've got 15 minutes left, so
Yeah,
I think the
that's
floor is open for whatever we want it to be open
the
to.
advertising, we're talking about Cannes and advertising awards. It went as the most creative campaign to this Budweiser campaign that it was done in Brazil. And they use 1 second of very, very big copyrights across the board with the campaign purpose that it only takes 1 second for you, if you're a real fan, to recognize your song. And I think when they presented, and this is where the gray area is, right? Because nobody knows exactly what the deal behind closed doors is. But this is interesting, and I think in a room like this is interesting. It's an interesting topic. Is that they sort of presented it like, well, we don't need to license it because it's 1 second, and so it went and it won. So now there's an entire conversation going around with supervisors and clearance experts and music lawyers. What defines copyright? And it's not just it's not anyway. It's a whole kind of, if you're interested in music copyright, go and find these. There's some articles around about this case because people still think that, and this is a big brand, got an award for it, and you still have these conversations behind closed doors saying it's just 1 second, we can get away with that. And the entire point of your campaign is, but you're telling people to recognize it, that they can recognize, so which that gives you straight away copyright protection because you can recognize it. So it's a very interesting time because this is the whole TikTok world where things got viral and music is treated in a very, very loose, different way. A lot of education. We need to keep having this conversation, and it gets tedious and boring especially if you go into the same conferences. But everybody needs to be reminded that you might get away, but you're getting away with murder. Not murder, but especially no murder. But you know what I mean? If they get, it's such an expensive. If do you have £1 million to pay for Taylor Swift for 2 seconds? If they get you, so maybe not. But you can only do what you can do. You can just say, flag it. Oh no, that's a bad idea, and then they will have to decide what to do with that. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like? Any more stories? Any more murders? Any more that we'd like to share before we open the floor for questions?
It's amazing.
I know,
the shady
it's
bar
amazing.
and the murder. It's like, Oh my gosh.
I think someone needs to make a documentary, like behind the scenes of the
know, of
international
your
music
work.
supervision industry.
Anyway, no, I'm good.
Maybe they have questions.
Yeah. How should we do? I'll give my mic away, and I'll run around because it's hot.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to know what would be the proportion between the clearance in your day job, between the artistic part of finding the good song or replace a too expensive song. Yeah, I get it. Trop cher. So the artistic part of your job between the legal part, the clearance part. Yeah, I am it.
That's a good question. It depends on, I think it depends on the supervisor. My 98% of my job, because of the projects I work on, are clearance and legal. I'm not a lawyer, but you know, that side of it. Let me just flag that out. So the creative side comes from trying to find replacement when clearance is not happening. So it's very sort of documentary style, so very little. So I'm not one of those that sends emails saying, pitch me 100 songs for this thing. I work very specifically because clearance is my kind of day in and day out.
For me, I'd say it depends on the project a lot, because when you have, and on the director, some directors know exactly what they want, so you just clear and that's it. Others want you to suggest stuff, and then you suggest lots of stuff, and the ideas always have to come from them as well, so that's also, it's another process of work and creativity. It's also very interesting. And then sometimes it's only production, because there are no tracks and it's only a music production, and usually it's quite big in those cases, so it's a lot of production and studio work, and so it really depends.
I negotiate composer fees with composer agencies, but as I explained, maybe not everybody was there, but I don't do clearance, because of how the company was working before we got there. So I'm sort of lucky, I think.
I think it also depends very much on the project. Sometimes I'm involved from the beginning, like the script is done, and then I read it, and I sit down, and then I think about the composer, who might join, and then we go through together, and then we say like, okay, this should be score, that should be source. When it comes to replacement, I also do not send out briefs, to be honest, because it's also very interesting, like, because my projects are very specific. Like, mostly I am chained to money. Like, for example, Bavaria gave money. The Bavarian state decided to bring, I don't know, 500,000 or something, and what means that I need to find a composer who is taxable in Bavaria. So that's already changed me to decisions. When it comes to song replacement, it's funny, but in Germany we have this common funny thing that all the directors, they like one song. They have one favorite song in the entire life.
Right?
Yeah.
The same song for all of them, yeah.
Yeah. So they want just one song. Oh, there are many different. Yeah, but like they want to have one song. Nine Nails was like one.
Oh, you
one
too?
of the yes.
Yeah, okay.
So they spent all the money, all the budget for this one song, and then you have 500 euros for the rest. And you're like, fuck you, really? I mean, what the kind of movie do you want to send to the world? So it's really tricky, like to work. And also, again, as you said, you are not the idea giver. You are just a little, pusher. You're like, maybe that would be nice if you could replace this and work with this person or this song. Yes. So it really depends. And again, I don't send out briefs, but what I discovered for the last 3 years of my life, that I love sync camps. I never joined sync camps, but a few years ago I got invited by the Finnish people, and I had a movie on the table where I had to replaced 5 scenes where there was no way of clearance because it was post-communistic country and there were no copyright, and I would need to contact like 200 people to get the clearance and blah, blah, blah. And then I went to the sync camp and I had these 5 scenes and like, listen, can you do something with that? And like, you know, be creative. And they actually made music for me. So I started to really appreciate sync camps when I have a project on my desk. I just came back like a month ago from a sync camp and I put 9 songs into a movie. Yeah. You never been? We have to get you invited.
I've been. Didn't manage to put any of the songs, although, but I've been.
Yeah, I think it's a very good opportunity for music supervisor where the budget is really tight, but you really want to have people who create music for you. And damn, it's amazing. And you have this wonderful group of people who create music click by click to every scene. And it's amazing. I just can recommend this.
But then again, like, you know, the songs that are sought after, like for video games, are like about winning and glory.
They
and
do it.
And so I'm like, if your song is good, if I can't have it, then you're gonna sell it.
Yeah, I get it.
Other questions?
Thank you. Hello. My name is Lucy. I'm a sync agent from Czech Republic. Thank you for the discussion. I have a question. When you approach new production to hire you, what is the tipping point convincing the production that you are worth it? Like, because, you know, you said that, except for burning potatoes, as Lena said, because you said that you are too few. So how to raise the number to make productions realize that, like, you are needed? Thank you.
I can tell you from my experience, like literally a few weeks ago, I approached a director who I love, and he's sitting in a country where I am a bit aware of it. But, and I approached him because I saw that he's doing a production where are Germans involved. It's about Second War. You know, we love the subject, obviously. And so it's about Second War. So you have Germans, you have Russians, you have Polish, you have Jewish, you have all that. And I thought, like, I would be perfect for this job, you know. And there are horses, so I could feed the horses also, you know. So I approached him, I wrote him on Instagram.
Work horses?
Yes, work horses, working horses.
Eating burnt potatoes.
Yes, and eating burnt potatoes. But I approached this director on Instagram. And I wrote him like, hi, my name's Lena, we are working in the same business, and I heard about this project. I think you should get in touch with me, send me your email. And he literally sent his email to me, just with no hi, Lena, nothing, just email. So I wrote this email and prepared really well, and he answered. And now I'm working with him. We start to shoot in October in some Latvian little town with horses.
Actually, now, like at Ubisoft, it's like, I think it's a reflex for most productions to call us up, but it wasn't always that way. Because like, I want to do music. Music is me. I don't want to share. And so my colleague and I, we put our desks, like there was a sound studio, and we put our desk like right next to the exit door. So anybody exiting the studio, we could say, hi, how are you doing? Like, and then take news and make suggestions and sort of like foot in the door. Yeah. And
it's the same for us.
Yeah. And it slowly grew. Yeah.
Your question was to convince, right? So yeah, we cold called basically the productions and showed what we were able to do, and then you tell stories to say how sometimes it's so difficult, and thank God you were there to save the day or whatever. And I guess it also from the films that you've done, and that when they do films that not the same sort necessarily, but where the music track, the OST can be relevant for them, then that's a good way to get your foot in the door as well. Yeah,
I think it's universal in that sort of way, but in the UK it's very word of mouth and who recommended you. So you will get a call from somebody that, oh, so-and-so said that I can work with you. It sort of works that way. That has been my experience more than me. If I approach people, it's just like, not even the email in there. It's like silence. So you take it personally and go and cry in a corner for a minute. But there's always somebody that says, oh, so-and-so said that you were amazing. It's like, yeah, I remember that fire. Yeah, I can do that. So it's very like that in the UK. Yeah. So there's no magic formula, I don't think, for that. It's just that kind of being in the right moment at the right time, but educating people on why they need you. That's pretty much saying, you know, it's going to be very expensive otherwise. Just go for the money. Yes. That's always, because productions really don't have the luxury and they leave music for the end. So I'm thinking about that for you now, so it doesn't become a problem when you don't have any more money left.
But they have been doing it historically without music supervisors. That's the point.
Badly.
Yeah, badly. But it's working somehow.
For now.
It is working. It is working, but again, when something goes wrong, then we are involved. Where you think like, okay, but this should cost you more because, you know, so again, it works. And I know producers, film producers in Germany who do not care about music supervisors at all, but they approached me and I worked with them several times. But it was like, again, way too late or like, you know. So, and I always say to young people who want to go into music supervision, it's like, check your local film festivals. Who is on? Who is the spot on? And there are many, like, many film festivals do like pre-production, like just financing projects. Go there, talk to the producers, tell them I know OSA very, very well. I know how to clear out rights of OSA. And they will be, oh, you know OSA, because they always, the OSA is the Czech public collecting society. And in Germany, when you say GEMA, everybody, oh, GEMA, we hate GEMA, oh, you know, and it's like, but you know, when we work with GEMA, it's easy for you. So approach them, tell them, listen, I know people at GEMA, we can make this happen, we can talk about licenses, let me be involved in your project before, and then they kind of respond, and then there's like, oh, listen, maybe it's a good idea to hire you.
I think we're done. We must leave, even though we want to hear so many more stories. But thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.